Díhuit agus fáilte chuig Aigreanna Trí sa Strat FleadhFest here from Barmeath Castle in Toher, County Louth, a place where Queen Maeve is said to have camped on her way to the cattle raid. Coming up, we chat to Lola Robinson and Orla Brannigan about the Drogheda branch of Comhaltas to find out how it all started and what's in store for the branch in the future. We head to Darver, Louth's GAA Centre of Excellence, to find out how Louth GAA started and what's in store for the future. We then meet 3 generations of Irish dancers and see how Irish dancing has changed here in the county. We visit Dundalk Railway Station and meet some former employees who tell us all about the history of the station. And finally, we visit Dundalk's Oriel Centre to learn more about the old Dundalk jail from K. Webster. We also have some fantastic music from the centre, which is now one of the regional centres of Comhaltas. Seo é FleadhFest Hyundai Louth. The Drogheda branch of Comhaltas was founded in 1969, and we chatted to Lola Robinson and Orla Brannigan to find out how it all began and what the branch are doing now.
Well, the Drogheda branch of Comhaltas was founded in 1969 by Roger Ryan and Tom Kavanagh. Roger was a fiddle player from Clare who came to work in Cement Limited, and Tom was a guard from Mayo, also a fiddle player. Roger sent a letter to the local paper, the Drogheda Independent, and as a result of that, a few people contacted him and they formed the branch. The main members of the branch at that time were Brother Forrestal, who was also a fiddle player from Wexford, John Gray, a fiddle player from Leitrim, and Seamus McGlynn, a whistle player from Scotland, via Cavan, and Paddy Joyce, who was originally from Mayo. They met in Roger's house in William Street for a few years, and then as more interest in the branch grew, they moved over to Fair Street, where the Community Services Centre is now. After a number of years there, we moved to Ballsgrove, the Holy Family Community Centre, where we're still based today. Some of the people who joined us during the years were Julia Murray, who was living in Drogheda but was originally from Donegal, Bartle Woods from Dunleer, Mick Flanagan, who is a box player from Tenure, Monaster Boys, and Eta Carwin, who's living in Laytown. Brendan Carlin from Duleek also joined the branch, and in more recent years then we had John Watts, Noel Bow and Micheál O'Brien. In the first few years of the branch, they put on a concert each year in the local parochial centre here in Drogheda, and they had artists from all around the locality as well as national artists. And it was actually after one of those concerts in 1976 that I joined the branch, because I was talking to Roger Ryan and he said to me, "Why don't you come up and join us in Fair Street?" Which I did, and I suppose the story of my life changed from there on. Through the branch, I actually met my husband, Paddy Brannigan, and I suppose we're a typical Comhaltas family nowadays, as our 2 daughters, Orla and Ciara, are very much involved in the branch and very much involved with music and dancing. In more recent years, we did a few weekends away, including Inisheer, where we produced a show, Oscailga, Journey from the Boyne. We also visited Sligo for a weekend and went overseas to Birmingham, where we met up with several members of the branch there in Coventry. We even travelled further afield then and did some festivals in France, in Spain, in Scotland and in Holland. And in fact, we hosted many of those groups here in Drogheda. On a local basis here in Drogheda and in Ireland, we took part in the Scoria competition in the Fleadh Cheoil, and we presented Drogheda 800, Echoes of Ireland and Peggy's 80th birthday. And these were very important because they involved all members of the branch, because not all our members naturally enough can sing or dance or play music, but it was a great opportunity to involve members maybe making props or costumes or things like that, because it's very much a family orientated branch.
One of my earliest memories of Drogheda Comhaltas was performing in a session show out in the Neptune Hotel. I was about 5 years of age at the time, and these session shows were put on for tourists that were coming into the local area. We continued to do these in the Cunningham Arms and in the Westcourt Hotel for years on end. Later on then we began to entertain CIE tours that were travelling from America around Ireland. They stopped into the D Hotel on a Wednesday night, and we went down and performed a session for them and taught them a little bit about Irish culture and music. Gaeilge is a huge part of the culture here in Drogheda Comhaltas. We've had many long-standing Troina Gaeilge promoters here in the branch. Breach Hannigan and Micheál O'Brien are two of the Troina Gaeilges that have really had an impact on Gaeilge in the branch. The tradition lives on with Micheál's granddaughters, Orla and Emer McDermott, who've recently qualified for Fleadh Cheoil in the Cora Gaeilge competitions. Orla and Emer are both equally as talented in their singing, and Orla has won the English singing title in the Leinster Fleadh. I became youth officer of the Drogheda Comhaltas branch at 16 years of age. I tried to promote Irish music, song and dance, and of course the Gaeilge throughout the branch to our young people. We put together youth sessions, and we also travelled around the country doing shows and different performances. It's safe to say we had plenty of fun along the way. Many of the young people that were with me at that stage are now teaching for the branch and are youth officers as well. During the Fleadh bid process that began in 2012, Drogheda Comhaltas began to spread its name throughout the community. There was a lot more awareness of Irish traditional music, song and dance spread across the town. Families began to become involved in Drogheda Comhaltas and are still here today. Although we're playing on Zoom at the moment, we're still having lots of fun, and we look forward to playing in person someday soon. There have been many highlights for me as part of my involvement in Drogheda Comhaltas. I also stood as youth officer on the county board and went on to be youth officer on the Orda Corlia of Comhaltas. During this time, I organised Cos Aran, which was an event that hosted 1,500 primary school children singing all together Os Gaeilge here in Drogheda. This was an event to promote the Fleadh coming to Drogheda, and still today people talk about this.
Drogheda Comhaltas has always been involved very much on a county, provincial and national level. We've hosted the Louth Fleadh on numerous occasions, and in 2010 we hosted with JJ Gardner branch from Dundalk the Leinster Fleadh in Dunleer. In 2015 we hosted the Leinster Convention, which is the first time it had been held outside Dublin in many years. And of course in 2018 and 2019 we hosted Fleadh Cheoil here in Drogheda. We're looking forward very much to help host the Leinster Fleadh when it comes our way now in a few years' time.
Thank you, Lolo and Orla, for that. So now we are off to Darver to Louth's GAA Centre of Excellence. Tell us, Joe, how long has Louth been a part of the GAA?
Louth has been there from the very start of the association. In 1885, just a year after the association had been founded in Thurles, Michael Cusack, one of the founder members, attended a meeting in Drogheda with a view to establishing a branch in Louth.
And who were the first clubs to register in the county?
It's established that Young Irons, Dundalk Young Irons, were the first team to be registered in Louth closely followed by Tullyallen.
When was the first championship played in Louth?
First championship was played in 1887 and it attracted 24 teams from all over the county. Louth has been involved on football's biggest day on 5 occasions subsequent to the first All-Ireland final and was successful on 3 occasions. The 1909 defeat by Kerry was soon forgotten when, in the following year, the county was declared winners. A second title arrived in 1912 and though it was over 4 decades before the hat-trick was completed, there are many still alive who recall the magnificent 1957 win over Cork.
How many clubs are in the county at the moment?
There are 42 clubs in the register in Louth at the moment, and all have striven over the years to improve their facilities. And it's probably no exaggeration to say that Louth have probably the best facilities in the country. Well, you could say that Louth has certainly stood the test of time and in its existence has had many fine achievements. I think we can expect to see the red and white being flown for many, many years to come.
Aidan, we're here in Darver at the Centre of Excellence. Can you tell me, what is the centre all about?
The Centre of Excellence is, I suppose, the centre of Louth GAA. At the moment, it's a centre in the middle of the county. It was started about 15, 16 years ago with the foresight of a few very honourable men in the county, Seamus Kirk, Paddy McMahon, Pat Toner, the late Brendan Carty, to mention a few. Colin Murray was another. And it was a view to having a centre where all our teams could be prepared for competition at inter-county level. It was opened officially in 2010 by Liam O'Neill, it's the council chairman, Uachtaráin Comhaltas Units at the time. And it is the centre of all preparation for our county teams, from the senior footballers, hurlers, right down to our academy squads at under 14, under 13, and on that level upwards. It is a hive of activity, particularly this time of year. As you can see in the background there's activity here all of the time, and we prepare all our teams here. It also has a great centre for our club matches, and particularly last year in the pandemic we played all our championship matches here, and it was absolutely fantastic for that. We have, as you can see there, 5 grass pitches, and we won all 3G pitch, which is used by the hurlers, used by the footballers for their training and at certain times and doing fitness work. But it is a tremendous facility. It is a credit to the clubs in Louth that have raised funds to put this here, and indeed use it themselves for matches that they can avail of it for matches during the year when their own pitches may be out of bounds. So it is a fantastic facility, and it is the centre of the GAA preparation for teams.
Now Aidan, I have to ask, what about the girls training here?
Yeah, the girls are very much included here. The ladies teams participate here, they prepare their teams here from 14 right up to adult level for their competitions, etc. And we actually have our camogie team, I think, up on the back pitch here at this moment in time, preparing for their matches as well. So it is a facility that's available to all the ladies of the county, as I said, from underage upwards, and it's a facility that they use all the time in preparation for the matches.
And you're in the process now of building a new county stadium. Will that affect this centre?
The new stadium is in its infancy at the moment. We have raised 1.2 million from our house draw there recently, and we're in the process of getting it priced to go out to tender now in the later part of the year, and hopefully we'll start building in the not too distant future. But it will be a field of dreams. We're the only county in Ireland who has not got a county grounds. We're the last county to have that facility, and this is going to be a state-of-the-art job for us. But this particular place here in Darver, our Centre of Excellence, will not be affected by the county grounds one way whatsoever. It will be the place where the children will come here still to prepare for the county teams, as I said, but their aspirations will be fulfilled in the new stadium.
What a fantastic centre of excellence there in Darver, and I can't wait to see the new stadium for Louth GAA. So now we're heading off to Dundalk to speak to 3 generations of very passionate Irish dancers.
just need to let the beats roll more there and that.
So when you started dancing, what age were you?
I was 6.
And where did you dance?
I danced in the Conra na Gaeilge. That's where we all danced. Mrs. M's class was there. My teacher was Mrs. Matthews. And there were only 3 schools in Dundalk when I started.
Who were they?
Mrs. Matthews, Monica Clarkin and Irene Lennon. And they were the only 3 until about in the 60s then. Their students started to teach. Mrs. Matthews had Melly O'Raheny, Mrs. Clarkin had Maureen Lamb and Teresa Crilly, and Irene had Sheila Flynn.
And was Irish dancing like a big thing to do, a nice hobby for young people to do in the 50s and 60s?
Absolutely, sure. It was a very reasonable and cheap, inexpensive way of keeping children busy and keeping them immersed in the culture.
And so when you were dancing, what was your typical dancing class like?
Well, we started after school, and there were huge numbers in Mrs. Matthews' class, and she ruled with a rod of iron. She was very, very strict.
Just like Nana Monica.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's where I got it from. And yeah, there were loads of children in the class, and we were there till probably 7 or 8 o'clock at night, which was a long time, but at that time it was safe to leave the class and walk home.
That was pretty cheap babysitting.
Yes, it certainly was.
And then when you got to compete or you got to perform in County Louth or around, what were the opportunities you had to perform?
Well, in County Louth we had 2 major feshes. One of them was established many, many years ago, Feis Marhevna, and the other one was more recently established, probably with the blessing of Comhaltas Units, and it was Fleadh Cheoil. And they were huge feshes with huge attendance at them. We always had the cream of Irish dance music there, with members of the Shimsa, Rory Kennedy, Brendan Cochran, Pauline Gardner, all those people playing music for us to dance to. It was a dream.
Now I know, I got to dance on some pretty funky stages, but did you actually have to dance on the back of a lorry or out in a field?
Many times in all parts of this county, out towards Cooley, in Drogheda, and then in County Meath there was Walterstown. They were horrendous feshes because they were in cow fields. So you can imagine if you walked the wrong way, you'd step into something and your socks would be very dirty.
But the aesthetic was different. I can imagine now the costumes are so expensive, people don't want to go outside. There probably wasn't as much pressure on keeping everything just as pristine clean.
We would wear our costumes going on the bus to the feis, and we had to walk right up the town in our costumes. And remember, the boys wore jackets and kilts, so it was pretty tough for them, and that was probably why a lot of boys didn't dance initially. It was really much later that there was a huge influx of boys into it.
So then you were finishing up your dancing career and you started teaching. So what was it like in the area when you started teaching?
I started teaching in 1970 here in Dundalk, and again in the Conra, in the Gaelic League, and dancing, the standard of dancing in this area, in this county, was very high. We had many world champions in this county. In this town, actually, we had a lot of boys, beautiful, beautiful dancers, and Mrs. Matthews was an absolute amazing teacher. And in fact, the first world ladies champion was from Drogheda, Ruth Pentony. And Ruth was a beautiful dancer too. So really, the county had tremendous talent.
And I know that prior to you starting to teach, there was sort of a split in dancing, in Irish dancing, where there was a disagreement. Just briefly tell us about that.
Well, that I believe it originated maybe in the north, in Ulster, but it did not really impact heavily here in the county. Mr. McCaffrey did go with Cogal in Drogheda, but our teachers here remained with CLRG, with the commission, and so it didn't really impact on us as such. But you would find that you would miss your friends out of other schools which had gone co-call.
So now, but in County Louth now, there are schools who dance with on commission or in Comhaltas, but there are also big schools who dance with on co-call as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mainly in Drogheda, there are none in Dundalk, but in Drogheda there are Lolo Robinson and Enda Dunn, to name just but a few of them, and they are very prominent.
And what were dancing classes like when you were growing up?
Well, my experience, probably not hugely typical for everybody, because I was the dancing teacher's daughter, so I had to go to a lot more classes than other kids. But actually, I think my classes were probably very similar to what you have now. We came in our school uniforms, so probably danced in our school uniform. I think there wasn't as much emphasis on athletic training and maybe extra personal training and things like that. I don't think the emphasis was on strength. I think still the emphasis was more on rhythm and timing, basic technique. I think what we are teaching now is definitely more athletic and, as Mona says, balletic. But we probably attended classes. I know we went to class in Drogheda, in Dundalk. We certainly crossed over the border into South Armagh. We kind of travelled all over the county doing classes, probably 5 days a week. And but it was always a lot of fun, because you had like as many friends in dancing as you had in school, so you kind of couldn't wait to go to dancing most days, unless there was a row with mum. But when I was competing in Irish dancing, we only ever got to dance in Ireland. We never got to go away out of the country. Like, Katie, tell us, you went, where was your first competition outside of Ireland?
Yeah, well, my first Worlds was in Boston, and that was the second time that the Worlds were abroad for Irish dancing. They went to the USA, and then obviously since then I got to London for the Worlds, and my most recent one was in North Carolina, as well as going away to England every couple of months for competitions like the Great Britons and the British Nationals and the All Scotland. So I've gotten to go loads of different places, luckily enough.
But now there's a great opportunity for you to maybe do it for a living for a little while. So where can you see yourself heading with your dancing?
I would love to, in the next couple of years, go away with a show such as Riverdance or Lord of the Dance and experience different cities and travel loads of different places with Irish dancing.
So certainly what Katie will be doing will be a far cry, ma'am, from what you thought you would be doing with your dancing when you were young.
Oh yes, absolutely. The children today are very blessed, but I was very lucky. I was very fortunate that I had the privilege of dancing for Comhaltas Units on the US tours, and I even went to Libya and England and really had a ball with them, because that was the major thing for me. No competition. It was wonderful to dance.
Well, fingers crossed, if we keep teaching up and down County Louth, the future of Irish dancing will be very bright in Louth and all across the world. Cheers!
Launch.
What a great grow for Irish dancing there from Mona, Dervla and Katie. Now, staying in Dundalk, we're going to head over to the railway station for some music and history.
Clark Station is not the original station here in Dundalk. It was further up, beyond to the south of this building. It was opened in February 1849. It ran from Newfoundwell and Drogheda to Dundalk, and there was 2 stops at Dunleer and Castlebellingham. It also, at that time, there was a track run from Dundalk Barrack Street to Castleblaney, and there was a connection made here just south of the Carrick Road Bridge. And passengers could change and go as far as Castleblaney. When you were in Drogheda, you had to get taken by a carriage from Newfoundwell to the present station at Drogheda. This station was opened on the 1st of June 1894. The reason being the Great Northern Railway was so busy that the old station was too small, and they built a 4-platform station here. This is called an island platform station. Number 1 platform is the Dublin platform, number 2 is for Belfast, number 3 was for Greenore and that's the Port of Greenore and the ferry service there, and number 4 was for what was called the Irish North platform. It brought people to Clonus, Enniskillen. You could go on up to Derry and you could go on to Bundoran, and there was various connections of those places for other. This signal box was situated on the south side of this station, just beyond the Carrick Road Bridge. It controlled the points for the Irish North West sidings and yard. It controlled crossings for between the up and down tracks, and it also controlled the signals for the platforms here, 1, 2, 3 and 4.
The Railway Heritage Society, we ran many excursion trains, both Belfast, which would go on up to Whitehead, which is the engineering area of the putting the trains back together again. But an interesting one is the train, the 131, a steam engine, an actual steam engine, was parked over there on the far side of the rails for a long, long time, and probably was rotting away. But it was eventually taken away and broken up. And strangely, after many years, I think it may have come as a consequence of the inquiries from Dundalk. They went searching for 131, and were bits and pieces found all over the country, down as far as even Tipperary, full of in fields and hedges and bushes. Now, some very dedicated people picked or collected as much as they could of the original shell together and put it together, brought it up to Whitehead, where they put the bones of the internal guts of it, and it's now a train in service between Whitehead and Bangor and places like that. You know, so something useful has come from it. And it was one of the steam engines which was built in the Dundalk Works.
There are some very interesting buildings here on this platform. The main one, and the one we are looking at the moment, was the holding cell. You can see the bars on the window, where people coming down from Mountjoy to be held a prisoner in the Dundalk jail would have been held while they were awaiting collection. It was also used for people in Dundalk after being found guilty, after being sentenced, while here waiting for the train to bring them to Dublin. And there was several renowned people were held here while they were waiting to be held down in the station, the RIC station in Dundalk.
What a fantastic railway station and beautiful architecture there. So only 5 minutes walk from here we have the Oriel Centre, or also known to some as the Old Dundalk Jail.
Tá fáilte romh chuig ionad óráile I Britain Dundalgan. You're very welcome to the Oriel Centre, Dundalk Jail. This is the beautiful home of the North Eastern Regional Centre for Comhaltas Units. Dundalk Jail was constructed between 1849 and 1853, with the first group of prisoners coming in here in January 1854. It was a man by the name of John Neville, who was the county surveyor at the time, that was responsible for the design and the build of this building, and it was based on a Pentonville model, which was one of the first prisons in the Victorian era in the new prison system that was built in London. So all of these jails share common features and structures within them. The cost of this jail was £27,000 at the time, a fortune in any man's language, not only today, but certainly 100 odd years ago. And it said in local legend that the first prisoner in here was the builder who actually built the jail, because the construction of the building itself apparently put him into debt. The jail here was closed in 1931, but not before it played a part in the formation of the state at the time. Originally built as the county borough jail, it held ordinary criminals from the 1850s right up to the 1880s. At that time, with the Irish Land League, a lot of Fenians were jailed and put in jails throughout Ireland. Some of the most notable characters that were in jail here include John Dillon, who was the MP for County Tipperary at the time, and a man by John O'Dowd, who was an MP for Sligo. John O'Dowd wrote a number of poems here in the jail while he was imprisoned, and they were discovered by one of our sister centres in Ceolaris Coleman in a little booklet called The Lays of South Sligo. Around 1913, the British authorities looked to regionalise the prison service in Ireland, and many of the county borough jails were closed at that time, but we retained some of the jails that we're familiar with today. So Portlaoise, Mountjoy, Cork, Limerick were all part of that original system, but were retained. The only county borough jail, apart from those that was held in an open situation, was Dundalk. It was emptied of prisoners. All the prisoners were moved to Mountjoy, but it was held, as it says in the National Archives, in a state of readiness because of the state of unrest of the country. It took until 1917 for the first batch of prisoners to be re-returned to Dundalk Jail. And it was following the hunger strike in Mountjoy, on which Thomas Ashe died, that the authorities looked to break up that hunger strike, and they sent 34 prisoners to Dundalk in an attempt to do that. That group of men included people like Sean Tracy from Tipperary. It's interesting that the centre here has become a Comhaltas regional centre, looking at culture and the protection of culture, given the history that it's had over its lifetime. Because Sean Tracy was a fiddle player, and the fiddle of Sean Tracy is actually held in our sister centre in Brobaroo in Cashel. And not only that, but Sean, when he was here in prison, would have held Irish classes, although he did use them as a means of hiding from the authorities that he was doing military drills with the men. Louth County Council kindly offered the use of this male wing of Dundalk Jail to Comhaltas Cheoil in 2007 for use as a regional centre. We cover 5 counties: Cavan, Monaghan, Louth, Meath and Armagh. And we operate primarily as an educational centre, focusing very much on young people and developing the skills and the language skills, music skills and language skills of young people. So we offer a number of projects for that benefit. We have a couple of performance opportunities where we have a summer show where younger people get to play alongside some of the older cohorts in our session series right throughout the summer. Not only that, we have in partnership with Music Generation Louth, we have developed a youth folk orchestra called Nos Nua. And Nos Nua has been hugely successful over the years. It's been being one of the first ever folk youth orchestras to perform at the National Concert Hall as part of the Festival of Youth Orchestras. They have also performed at Fleadh Cheoil for President Michael D. Higgins. We work with a lot of schools here as well in terms of offering tours to young people. We work, I suppose, on a tour-tier programme where we bring in people who have no knowledge of Comhaltas Cheoil and bring them in through the history and talk to them about the history, but also about Comhaltas and what we do. And on the other hand, we deal with an awful lot of young people through Comhaltas, through the music, and through that they get to learn and appreciate their own local history and appreciate the sense and the history that goes with this beautiful building. Quite a number of instrumental music classes happen here in the Oriel Centre under the auspices of Fleadh Cheoil, which is the local branch of Comhaltas Cheoil. And because of the richness of heritage within the branch itself and within the group, but we also look to outside this. We look maybe across the border to Monaghan, to Meath, and we've managed to bring together over the last number of years a group of young people who have worked with us in the Comhaltas project, and that's about sharing the culture and heritage, the language, the music and the dance with some of their counterparts in Scotland. We work in partnership with Feshan and Gael on that one, and Feshan of course are the organisation responsible for the promotion of Scottish traditional music and song and language. That project wouldn't have been possible without support from Forest na Gaeilge, and Deirdre Nivoca will tell us a little bit more about that.
The initial invitation to travel to Inverness came from Feshan na Gael. We subsequently travelled with young people from the northeast region here over to meet with counterparts in Inverness. They took part in workshops in singing, dancing, language, drama. They prepared for performances together, and they worked along with tradition bearers both in Ireland and Scotland. This project wouldn't have come about without the support of Forest na Gaeilge and the Columkill funds. Due to the connection to Columkill, we therefore focused on the journey of Columkill in the 2016 season, which brought us to perform in Iona in the cathedral, which was a very momentous occasion. Another high point was performing for Nicholas Sturgeon and An Dúchthráin Mícheál O'Higgins in Glasgow as part of Celtic Connections and a state trip of President Michael D. Higgins to Glasgow. Other notable performances were at Bloss Festival in Oban, where the group supported Sharon Shannon. They also performed at Fleadh Cheoil na hÉireann in Ennis and in Drogheda. Plans for the coming season, which we hope will take place in the autumn of 2021, are very exciting, and we look forward to sharing them with you in the future.
After finding ourselves in the ironic position over the last year of locking people out of this building rather than welcoming them in, we very much look forward to developing new projects and welcoming more and more people back to the Oriel Centre over the next number of decades, and hearing the beautiful walls here ring once more with music, song, dance and laughter.
Thanks for that, Kay, and yes, we are definitely all looking forward to some live performances very soon. Well, sin éid an Aigreán seo, go dtí an céad Aigreán eile, slán go fóill.